Cthulhu Confidential is a role-playing game of noir investigators delving into mysteries tinged with the Cthulhu mythos, the horror created by H.P. Lovecraft. It's a one-to-one RPG, gumshoe one-to-one system, which means that it's designed for just one player and one game master. It's a bit simplified from some other RPGs that we know of, and it has all the tools to make sure that the player gets a full dramatic experience and doesn't get killed off too early or get stuck in a dead end and so on. The way it works is you've got your character sheet. This is Vivian Sinclair, a pre-created investigative journalist, with their various skills and abilities, a bit of story information, and their sources, their contacts. So this is all you really need to play, plus this die. And there's some optional cards which we'll print out later, which look kind of like these, which I'll explain in a few seconds. Now, in the Cthulhu Confidential game, your character attempts to take actions to influence the storyline by using abilities. Investigative abilities, like accounting, or evidence collection, or flattery, or photography, or reassurance. Investigative abilities allow you to gather information. The whole idea behind Gumshoe is that failing to get key information is never interesting. So you want to have the right ability and look in the right place, and you will get a clue. It's up to you to figure out what that information means. Some of the information is important, some of it is tangential. If you don't have the relevant ability, you can still talk to your sources. So Vivian knows an occultist, she knows a detective, she knows an explorer, she knows a nurse, all these people can provide useful skills to help her investigation. In some situations, you can spend a resource called a push to gain an additional benefit. This might be more information that you don't absolutely need to solve the case. It might consist of advantages that clear your path through the story, such as favors from witnesses, knowledge that keeps you safe, or prior relationships to central figures. You start with 4 pushes and you can gain more during play. The other kind of ability is the general abilities. General abilities determine whether you succeed or fail when taking actions other than gathering information, usually in an event called a test. You roll the dice and you see what happens. The most important kind of test is the challenge. For a challenge, you roll a 6-sided die, and depending on the result, you might get an advance, a hold, or a setback. An advance, the best result, will often give you some sort of advantage. A hold is an okay or middling result where you just get by or things don't really change. And if your outcome is a setback, something bad happens. On an advance, you probably gain an edge, which is a kind of advantage you can use later in the scenario. As a reminder, you'll gain an edge card, like one of these. They represent things that will help you in this particular story. Often, you'll have to discard the card to gain the advantage. You might have an edge that gives you a benefit on a specific thing, like hypnosis tests, or it might be a whole group of things, like any general or manual test, and it might give you an extra die, or it might give you a +1 or a -1, depending on things. And if you manage to roll and get an advance without rolling all the dice you're entitled to, you also gain an extra push in the rules. On a setback, you get a problem, representing a dilemma that might cause trouble for you later. Problems are bad. They could be injuries or mental traumas. You could owe money to the mob or worse. Now, you get a card to remember it, this problem card, and certain cards could lead to a terrible end to your detective if you fail to counter them by the end of the scenario. For example, injury, life-threatening, gives you big penalties to certain kinds of general abilities, but in addition, if you haven't countered it by the end of the game, you bleed to death. So you sometimes have to choose between solving the mystery or ensuring that you survive. You might have to sacrifice yourself in some cases, which could lead to one of those dark endings that you often see in these noir films. Most challenges will allow you to voluntarily take on an extra problem in exchange for rolling one more die. So you tell the game master, oh, I want to gamble a bit more on this. I want to try and get more dice, but I'm willing to risk more problems for it. Finally, sometimes you'll be making a simple roll called a quick test to see if you succeed or fail. You just roll the dice without the possibility of advances, edges, setbacks, or problems. Anyway, that's the basic game. You don't have to worry about any special rules for combat or mental distress as you would in other kinds of games. And the challenge system basically handles everything. The game master describes the mystery, and you play through it and solve it. We'll be playing The Red Mist, a mystery involving violence and lost, mysterious books. And yeah, this scenario provides everything I need to run the game. But the main Cthulhu Confidential book also gives all the guidelines I need to create other kinds of mysteries, along with a whole bunch of edge and problem cards that I can use to customize the mystery. In fact, the game also allows you to take a blank character sheet and create your own kind of character, fill in your own name, your own story, and you can choose a different set of skills, abilities, and different sources. So the game is quite customizable, and yeah, basically that's what we'll be playing.